Well, hello. It's time for your update for the last quarter of 2024. A few things changed. We have a new president, and I'll talk about that more later. Um, so the economy grew at 3.4% last quarter, which was more than the Fed wanted. They wanted it in the 2% range, and that could be a little problematic going forward, and I'll explain that in a second as well. So there's a lot of things I want to talk to you about today, but the first subject I want to talk to you about is diversification. And the reason I'm talking to you about that is those aforementioned things I'm going to talk with you more about. So, diversification is the number one rule of investing. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. People go, how'd the market do? And there's multi indexes. There's the S&P 500, there's the Nasdaq, there's the Dow, there's the Russell 2000, the Russell 3000, the S&P 400. It goes on and on and on. So which market are we talking about? It depends on, what you're trying to accomplish. So most of those indexes, except for the Dow, are all what's called market weighted. They're if Apple is 10%, of the business of that whole 500 group of business, they're going to represent 10% of the return on their stock, what their stock does. So it has a big impact. The problem is that people will, like for example, the S&P 500, most of its performance, in fact, probably about 75% of its performance came from literally 8 companies. Other than that, the other 492 were kind of average. So you have to understand what's going on. So diversification is the first rule. You don't know what's coming around the corner. You don't know if there could be a nuclear bomb. You don't know if we're going to go to war. You don't know what's going to happen because we can't predict the future. If we could, well, tell me if you can, because I would love that information. So at the end of the day, what we're trying to accomplish is diversification, which is going to get you a good representation of getting a good return based on the events that took place that year. Now, this is where I'm concerned about what might be coming up. So yeah, it all looks good. Trump's in office. Everybody's excited about it. He's a pro-business president. Everybody's excited about that, and that's a good thing. But what I'm concerned about is we've gone 2 years now without a 10% correction. And those happen on average about every 18 months. In fact, since 1980, we've had 102 10% or more corrections. So it's a very frequent event, and it's an important event because if you don't have corrections, you form a bubble, and when that pops, it gets really ugly. So my concern is that we do have a correction somewhere coming up. It's inevitable. So I have us sitting in a position to take advantage of that. We probably have 35 to 40% of the portfolio that is not directly affected to the negative part of the stock market. I have, of course, stocks in there. I've got some fixed income vehicles, very few of those, but I try to play the offense defense. I've got a big chunk of it in something called buffer notes. And what that does is it forgives the first 20% that the market goes down, but you participate one for one all the way up to maybe 13, 14% of the cap. It's capped on the top. So it's instead of just sitting in cash, that's what I've got a lot of the money sitting in. So we should be protected once we see that sort of event take place. We can sell that and go put that into the stuff that got killed. Then we can make a bunch of money. And that's kind of my style, what I do. But the other reason that I'm concerned is, and this might be the cause of it, is because the Federal Reserve, they want to cut rates, and they started to cut rates. But with, the growth staying where it's at and the economy doing really well, they're not going to want to cut interest rates. They're trying to tame inflation. So interest rates are a little stubborn right now. And just the fact that the Fed might announce that they're not really going to do any rate decreases could cause the market to get the correction. So just sit back and wait, and we'll see what happens. But we've had such great results, since 2015, we've had phenomenal, great results. I'm very happy with what we've done. Just the last 2 years, I think we grew about 30%. It's been crazy. But just hang in there, and I will talk to you again at the end of the next quarter.